As consumers, we are bombarded by it at every turn, like the Incredible Hulk being bombarded by gamma rays. But what makes some media endure, while others are banished to the forgotten black hole of obscurity, never to be heard from again? Who or what decides this? Hetero life mates Steve and Yahel want to know, and they want to know now. This is Obscurity Now. And what's up, Obscurians? It's time for another episode of Obscurity Now, the show that takes a look at weird and almost forgotten pieces of media, and then we decide if they should be remembered for all of human history or tossed into the black hole of obscurity, never to be heard from again. My name is Steve, and with me, he's known as the most irredeemable man I've ever met.
It is Yahel. I thought you were going to say the most irredeemable man at the castle. But, there's plenty of people there far more irredeemable than me.
Mm-hmm. And
how are you doing, Steve? It's been so long. I've yearned for your company, for your opinions on obscure media. I'm glad I get to be in the effervescent presence that is Steve.
Yeah, and I couldn't help but notice you're wearing the same shirt as last week. I mean, come on, buddy. What do you have, a whole closet full of those?
I've been depressed and missing you ever since, and I just didn't want to change because I didn't want the digital Steve smell to go away.
Oh, that's very confusing. Thank you, I think. But speaking of irredeemable,
well, I'm trying to gas you up now, as the kids say, because I think you might be upset with me as we begin to review this comic
and that
book.
comic book is the Irredeemable Ant-Man #1, and I definitely have a confession to say that this is definitely one of those episodes where I'm just like, I wonder what Yahel will think of this one, because I don't know anyone who's ever even read the Irredeemable Ant-Man. I think maybe my roommate at the time read it and enjoyed it.
Well, not to get too ahead of ourselves, but I mean, your email about it sure made it clear that you're a fan of this issue, this comic book. So I do already kind of know your feelings on this, and this may be the end of our friendship.
Hey, well, if our friendship / podcast partnership didn't end when you revealed on air that you hate Pulp Fiction and Quentin Tarantino, then I don't think it's going to end because you don't like Irredeemable Ant-Man.
That's a good point.
And
maybe like Quentin Tarantino and Rob Liefeld should get together because, Quentin Tarantino, I think it's well known he has a foot fetish, right? And Rob Liefeld can't draw feet very well in most cases. So maybe if they combined their talents, they could be a normal man.
It's funny that, you mentioned Rob Liefeld, which we're big fans, of course.
We genuinely are.
You know that AI site, Midjourney? Well, I guess a lot of those sites in general, they have a real hard time with hands. And I was just like, is Rob Liefeld behind this?
If they had a hard time with feet, because, I mean, he's okay with hands, from what I remember. He just does a lot of the same, like his hands are just always kind of doing this,
right.
Like they're out front and right in front.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, there's the soulless look in their eyes. But hey, it's getting better every.
Hey, but their teeth are beautiful.
Right.
No one draws teeth or pouches better than Rob. And again, we really are fans of Rob.
We are.
We just pick on him because he's got like a very distinct art style. And honestly, there's so many other artists whose art style is they're good artists, but it's like not very distinct. So it's like even hard to like make fun of it, if that makes kind of sense. Whereas his, because it's distinct, there's like stuff that you can easily point to as a Rob Liefeld.
Oh, absolutely.
God, why do I always talk about him as if he's like right behind me?
He's everywhere, man. He's everywhere. Okay, so enough about Rob.
A giant metallic gun.
He's just a giant walking pouch. So that's how you feel about Rob, and longtime listeners know how we feel about Rob. But what do you feel, or how do you feel about Walking Dead creator and also writer of the Irredeemable Ant-Man, Robert Kirkman? What do you think? Have you ever read any of his comics?
Yeah, I've read a couple Walking Dead. Actually, more than a couple. I want to say maybe the first time I read Walking Dead was in Orlando when we were living
That's
together.
highly
I feel like
possible.
you had. I think I might have borrowed a few issues from you,
Hmm.
maybe, or something like that. Um, I mean, I liked it. I didn't know what was going
Hmm.
on because I was kind of like lost. But yeah, I mean, he's fine, I guess. Like, I don't have anything negative to say. I've never read. Well, I don't want to say I've never read anything of his I don't like, but
Did you watch or read Invincible?
no. And I know that you've been on me to do
Hmm.
it. I need to, and I remember because I read the final like page of the book where he's like, did his I don't know, his letter to the fans or
Hmm.
whatever. And he brought up Invincible. I was like, oh yeah.
Well, I mean, if you don't feel like reading I think it's like 100 plus, maybe just 100 issues. The Amazon Prime show is really good. But
Yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to watch the Amazon Prime show. I'm trying to get through this old 80s anime called Legend of the Galactic Heroes right
hmm,
now.
yeah.
Uh it's very good, but it's only available subtitled and it's very, very complex show with a lot of characters, so it's taking me a while to get through the 110
I mean,
episodes
is
on
that
it, but
something that we should cover at some point?
I don't think we could because like episode 1 is
Just people
like
sitting around talking.
really there is a lot of that, to be
Hmm.
honest. I mean, there's some like space fight and stuff, but I mean, it's just like kind of introducing the world. Like, I feel like you can't really even like really start talking about it till you've watched like at least the first 10
Ah, one of
episodes.
those. One of those. Well,
Well, it's like it treats like the first 10 episodes like a movie
hmm,
basically. So,
all right. Well,
but it's very good, very
maybe
very good.
I'll
Like
check it
I
out. I have been looking for a new anime, but for now,
there is it's only available on this streaming service I had never heard of before called High Dive,
mhm,
which is like this anime streaming service. But
the
there's like
the
a
anime
reboot
service
going on
for
right.
divers.
Yeah. Do you like snorkeling and anime and tentacle porn? Well, do we have the streaming service for
Hmm.
you? But there is like a reboot of it that's going on right now as well. And I watched like a few episodes of that, but then I was just kind of like, I really want to get the original experience because it's considered one of the greatest anime of
Man,
all
I can't
time.
believe I've never
And
heard it. Oh, man, that's
yeah, I'm about halfway through. I'm like at episode 48, and I will say I could definitely see it ending as one of the best anime, if not the best one
and
I've ever
what
seen.
genre is it? It's
It's like a space opera, but that's really just like the set
uh
dressing. It's about like politics. It's about how
I mean,
power
are
corrupts
there mechs
people.
in it or oh,
No.
interesting. Well, yeah, I'll definitely have to take a look at it.
It it's like Battlestar Galactica, the reboot, but more complicated and with way more
Well,
people,
hopefully it
way
has
more
a better
characters.
ending than that show. Not that,
I don't think that's a high bar.
but yeah. So, why are you ready to jump into the Irredeemable Ant-Man #1?
Let's do it.
All right.
Welcome to your feature presentation.
All right. Let's see. Okay. Irredeemable Ant-Man #1 was released December 2006. There are 12 issues. I mean, did you remember this when I brought it to your attention that this existed?
I, I never read it, but like when you said the title, like I was like, oh yeah, I remember like hearing
Yeah.
about it. Because I feel like it was a big deal that Kirkman was writing
Mhm.
it.
Well, it was a big deal to me because I've always been, as I said, a big fan of Robert Kirkman. Like, did you see the latest Ant-Man movie? Have you seen those movies? What is your history with Ant-Man?
I mean, I saw the first Ant-Man movie, maybe even the second
Hmm.
one actually. I'm not really sure, but I'm like 3 movies behind or so in the MCU in general. Like I need to watch the last Doctor Strange movie, and I haven't watched anything from there forward. So like Doctor Strange, Black Panther 2, and Ant-Man I haven't
Yeah,
watched.
I'm not watching any of those.
Oh, or the last Thor movie.
Those look awful. You don't need to watch them.
Yeah, but Steve, you go in with a different mindset to those movies than I do. I think like I wouldn't pay to go see them in a theater. Like I don't think it's worth that anymore. But you got a few hours at home to kill, and you're looking for like dumb action, fun movie. you just can't look into it too deep.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah, if I have like a lazy Saturday to kill, I might throw one of them on there. But yeah, I mean, that's one way of looking at it for sure. But I mean, but are you familiar with like Ant-Man, the comic character? I was one of the
Oh, sure.
All right. I mean, I do like that first Ant-Man movie, and the second one was okay. I hear this third one is not very good, but maybe one day I'll watch it and actually decide for myself. But
What I've heard is that it's just very by the numbers. Like it's not bad, it's not good, it's fine. Like you'll have like it has some like nice set pieces and some fun action here and there, but you're not gonna like go away and be like, oh wow,
right.
I think a lot of the problem too with these Marvel movies is that they're so long. Whether they're good or bad, they're always like 2.5 hours, sometimes
It's like
more.
all movies these days.
Well, and to me, it's like if they would just like shrink these down to like an hour. Let's see what I'm going to say. Shrink these down to like an hour and a half to 2 hours. I think people would enjoy them a lot more, and you could kind of like hide some of the not so great scripts a little bit. That's just my opinion.
Or they could just write a good script, but whatever.
Right, but since that's not going to happen,
I don't know. I mean, hopefully Disney are going to clean up their act here, since they seem to keep losing money.
But Steve, they're not losing money. But Steve, like they may not, maybe in some areas of the business they're not making as much money as they could be, but they're not losing money.
Yeah, all right.
I mean,
you're probably right.
But wouldn't you say, Steve? I mean, because you're a filmmaker, like a lot of the movie gets done in the edit.
Sure.
And you can take like a mediocre film and you can edit or any piece of media and you can edit it into something better. So I think a lot of it is like they just need to edit.
Well, there's that, and also a lot of there's a lot of corporate fingers in the pot, and I'm sure a lot of people are like, well, we got to have this person in there and that person in there.
There's too many cooks in the kitchen, probably.
100%. Yeah. So just for a little, all
right, but anyways,
just for a little information about the original Ant-Man, he was created by Stan Lee, Larry Lieber, and Jack Kirby. And of course, the original Ant-Man is
this like actually created by Stan Lee, or is this one of these? Stan Lee was just like walking into the room when two other people were creating.
Well, I mean, we weren't there, so we don't really know. But but he's on there, credited as created by. And of course, the original Ant-Man is Hank Pym. I think most people know Scott Lang from the movies, who was the Ant-Man after him. And then the Irredeemable Ant-Man, who we are going to be reading today, is Eric O'Grady. And then after him, I've never heard of this person, Zane Ashgar. I don't know. Look it up yourself. I don't know who that is.
That sounds like if they were trying to do like a reboot of, I don't know, like Metal Gear in the mid 2000s, and they wanted to give him a new edgy name, that would be like his name.
Yeah, or 90s, yeah, for sure. And Ant-Man's first appearance was Tales to Astonish, number 27, all the way back in January of 1962. And of course, he's one of the founding members of the Avengers. He's right there in Avengers number 1. And so jumping into the Irredeemable Ant-Man, let me get my notes here. Here's a synopsis basically for that series, and it goes like this. Eric O'Grady is a low-level Irish agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. who stumbles upon Dr. Henry Hank Pym's latest incarnation of the Ant-Man suit in the S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters. A man of very few morals with a willingness to lie, cheat, steal, and manipulate in order to get ahead in life, O'Grady immediately steals the armor of his own for his own selfish plans, which include using his status as a superhero to stalk women and facilitate his thievery. And the main creators of the Irredeemable Ant-Man are previously mentioned Robert Kirkman, who, just in case you've been living under a rock, he created Walking Dead Invincible. Some of his newer stuff include Firepower, and he's pretty well known for the Marvel Zombies line. I think people even forget that he actually worked for Marvel because he's so synonymous with Image these days. He kind of quit
Right.
and then like wrote this big manifesto on how like, you know, you should not work for the big two and just create your own comics, which, I mean, it certainly worked out well for him. I can't say how it's going for the rest of us, but anyway, so the
Yeah, it's very much like a rich person telling somebody, don't be poor. What are you doing?
But it's on record that he was a dirt poor creator for a long time, just swimming in debt until finally, you know, he just got lucky and you know, Walking Dead hit and Invincible hit. So good for him. And the artist on Irredeemable Ant-Man is Phil Hester. And, I mean, he's worked for Marvel, Dynamite, and Image on such titles as Namor. Again, Robert Kirkman's Fire Breather, which is a great comic about, like, martial arts and, like, kung fu and dragons and stuff. And Green Arrow. And I'll just briefly go over some of the other creators. The inker was one Andy Parks. Colorist is Bill Crabtree. Letters is Russ Wooten. And, of course, the publisher of the Irredeemable Ant-Man is Marvel. And if you want to know about some of those other people, Google is your friend. So anything else before we jump into the Irredeemable Ant-Man here?
No, let's get into it.
All right. Oh, I hate you. Okay, let me make sure things are looking good here. All right, there we go. So on our very first page here, it's nighttime in a very...
Oh, you didn't cover the cover.
Oh, my mistake. I don't know. This cover is not all that swell, but yeah. So...
So I just skipped that. I hate this cover.
All right, so...
But I hate it because it has nothing to do with the issue.
Yeah, I mean, it's supposed to give you, I guess, an idea. Like, basically... The cover here is it's like a mountain of like pretty big name Marvel supervillains. You got MODOK here and Rhino, Loki, even Thanos. And at the very tippy top, I think Galactus's hand is even in there.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you if that's supposed to be Galactus.
Yeah, and at the very tippy top is
maybe a Sentinel.
Is the Irredeemable Ant-Man, and he's still like in small form, and he's saying, 23 supervillains and not one wallet. So they're trying to give you the sense that that Ant-Man here is of a questionable character. What do you think of the cover here?
I foolishly assumed that maybe he would be taking on some of these villains, or they would be somehow involved. I'm not a fan of this cover. I just don't think it does anything. It's weird to I get that it's Ant-Man, right? But it's also weird to have your character, at least in issue 1, be so small on the cover. But I get it. It's Ant-Man. So I mean, it kind of makes sense. Like you said, I don't think it stands out or anything. This might have been like a fun little like final splash page at the back or a back cover or something like that, or an alternate cover. But for a main cover, I think it's kind of weak and misleading.
Yeah, I mean, I actually agree with you. That's why I used like the cover from the trade paperback for the thumbnail and not this. I think if you're looking at it like in the comic shop, then you're like, it's Ant-Man. He beat up all these villains. Ha ha. I mean, I don't think you're supposed to think that they're actually going to show up in this issue. Like maybe later on in the series, but yeah, maybe a little bit misleading for sure. So anyway, turning the page here. All right, it's nighttime and it's in like a bad part of the city. And this man, or thug, if you will, is robbing this woman. And he's all, hey, you want to give up the purse before or after I take a look at what else is on the menu? And he's basically threatening her, and out of nowhere he falls, and then the stupid thug is like, I'm gonna kill you, and then like more stuff happens to him. You get a crack and then a thud, and then he's basically laid out on the ground bleeding, and then all of a sudden the lady's purse starts floating, and I guess you can see what's going on here. The Irredeemable Ant-Man says your purse, and so, and then he, I guess, enlarges himself to the regular size and says, "Go ahead, take it. It's yours. I didn't put a bomb in it or anything," which is kind of a weird thing to say to someone whose life you...
Well, what a great way to make somebody think you put a bomb in
it. Right. And then, of course, the lady is all, "Where did you come from? How did you?" And he's like, "I'm Ant-Man. I can get really small and stuff." And then he explains how his strength works. I think everybody knows how Ant-Man's powers work at this point. And she's like, "You saved my life. I don't know how to thank you." And then he's like, "I've got an idea. How about you let me buy you dinner tonight?" And she's, "Really? Are you serious? Okay, I guess." And basically, he tells her, this fancy restaurant to meet at. And then she's like, "Are you going to be wearing the Ant-Man or no, he says, "I'll be the one wearing the Ant-Man costume. That's how you'll recognize me." And she's like, "Really?" And that's basically the end of our cold open. What were your thoughts at this point, Yahel Velasquez?
Well, it was okay. It was fine. It was pretty generic comic book issue 1 kind of opening thing. Like, didn't we see the same thing in like Shadowhawk? Pretty similar opening. Yep. But, that's a classic. By the same token, it's a classic comic book like introduction to your heroes. So I'm okay with it. It was fine. I'm sorry, Steve, you look at your itch and it's...
I was going to say, but unlike Shadowhawk and your sort of classic, superhero opening, which it definitely is, there's a swerve at the end. The typical superhero goes, "It's okay, madam, doing good is its own reward." But now, old crazy old Eric O'Grady, he's desperate to hook up. So he's like, "How about I buy you dinner? Go on a date with me because I'm a sleazebag." And that didn't...
Yeah, it's definitely like, it's like that Dennis Reynolds thing from Sunny and Phil. It's Always Sunny, where he's like, "Oh, she can't say no because of the implication,"
Oh, man, you nailed it. Yeah, for sure.
But it also, like, I was a little worried because I was like, this Ant-Man so far, and again, it's only a couple pages, but I was like worried that he was going to be a little Deadpool-ish. But I can tell you, like, the one thing though that really stuck out to me in a negative way right off the bat was the art.
Oh yeah, I was going to ask you what you think of Phil Hester's art.
I'm not a fan of the art in this book at all.
And what specifically?
I'm also not a fan of.
So what specifically do you not like about it?
I don't know, because it's subjective, right? So I mean, I'm not gonna say the guy's like a bad artist, but I don't like the way he does faces. Like, a lot of them like have like this Cro-Magnon.
I can see that for sure.
There's a lot of like really sharp edges to it. It kind of reminds a little bit of like not as severe, but like a little bit of Sam Keith a little bit. At times.
To me,
heavy shadows.
To me, it's like almost like sort of that style of like Batman the Animated Series, almost like leaning towards that.
I could see that a little. Yeah, I could see that a little bit. Like a lot of angular kind of lines in it. And I don't know. I don't want, just because I don't like it doesn't mean it's bad. It's just not for me. And a lot of it's more like the way he does people, like the way he did like the buildings and stuff, and everything that's not a person was fine. But I'm just not a fan of the way he does people, I guess.
I gotcha. I mean, I will say that his style is an acquired taste, for sure. To me,
it's like Rob Liefeld. It's distinct.
Right. To me, it almost leans more towards like animation. This almost feels like kind of like an adult cartoon almost.
Yeah, I could see
moving on. So, whoops. I need to fix this. All right, so now we get... All right, that being said, we now get a massive 2-page spread of the S.H.I.E.L.D. helicarrier. I mean, this looks pretty awesome, right?
There's one thing that does... The art is fine. Again, the people, I'm not... The Mr. Freezes floating, I'm not...
Those are S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, you bastard.
Oh, excuse me. However, one thing, this began something else I didn't like about this book visually is the coloring on a lot of these pages. Like it's like just variations of the same color, and it all kind of blends together. Like everything on here is like a bluish gray, basically, on this page. Just about everything. And there's quite a few panels like that. And I don't know, like that really, I don't know. To me, it just made it look a little drab or whatever. It's not like that in every panel, but there's quite a few where it's just like lots of the same color and just different, just slightly different hues or shades of it.
Yeah.
But the art here looks cool, I will say.
Yeah, I think maybe what they're going for, this is just speculating, is like, yeah, it's like, this is an adult cartoon, but then we're going to color it like a, I don't know, like almost
like a Zack Snyder DC universe
yeah,
movie.
I was going to say like a noir or something, like a crime movie or something like that.
Like a bluish,
yeah,
like a bluish hazed, what's word? Like a LUT, like you apply a LUT to something.
Ooh, look at you
like
busting out the terminology. So
I'm a bit of an editor, Steve.
What? Since when? No. So yeah, so we're looking at the Shield helicarrier here, and basically, and then we turn the page, and now we are inside the helicarrier. We're with Eric O'Grady. He's this takes place in the past. He's playing poker with a few other low-level Shield agents, and he's basically spreading misinformation about Nick Fury. He's basically just saying, "Oh, Nick Fury's a myth. Have you ever seen him?" And like the other guys are like, "Oh yeah, I think I heard his voice once." And basically he's being that. If you've ever had a retail job or corporate job or whatever, there's always that one person who's like spreading like rumors and stuff, and like that.
There's the one guy that's taking Ancient Aliens seriously.
Well, I mean, there's that guy, but then there's also like, ooh, did you hear about like who they're gonna fire, or what thing they're gonna change at the Walmart we're working at, or something along those lines. And I mean, I just thought that was funny that that's basically who Eric O'Grady here is, like, just this lying sociopath. And that's basically, I guess, just what they're trying to show here. Did you have any comments about this page?
Yeah, a lot of dialogue.
That's why I'm summarizing it.
A lot of dialogue that I think this could have. I mean, I appreciate that they're like trying to establish these characters through their conversation. So like that's one thing I did appreciate here. Kirkman, rather than telling you, hey, this guy is a guy that bullshits people, or makes stuff up, like you're seeing it, they're showing it to you, right? Rather than having some guy say, hey, did you know that it's Eric, right? Eric says this kind of crap. I think it could have been done in like half the amount of words though. And again, these guys' uniforms is like so similar in color to like the background, like the base, and that like becomes an issue for me as it goes on. So I don't know. I thought like the colors, there's some weird color choices,
right?
Here, but again, I appreciate that like the way that they're showing you who the characters are rather than just telling.
Yeah, this sort of era of Marvel, they were definitely going for sort of decompressed kind of cinematic storytelling. So I mean, you could really feel how this would be like a scene in a Marvel movie, basically, if they were ever going to make like a Irredeemable Am. Just talking about like the dialogue, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. This is written more like a scene in a TV show or movie.
And as for the coloring, like, yeah, I definitely see what you're talking about. But I mean, classically, that's like how the Shield uniforms and the Shield helicarrier look. Like, I don't know, maybe they could have made the backgrounds darker, so the characters.
But aren't like the Shield's costume usually like black?
It's usually a dark blue, like a navy dark blue.
Okay, well, I mean, he could have like made. But there's other things you can do. Like you could like add like a poster on the wall. Like there's other ways you can add color to it. A plant, a TV with something on it, a computer, at a desk. Like there's other ways you can add color.
Right, I'm with you. But I mean, just to counter that, like, I mean, I've obviously neither of us have ever served in the military, but I would only imagine, since the Shield helicarrier is like basically like a floating battleship. The quarters for all of like the low-level sailors and stuff, they're probably not allowed to have like posters and cool shit and stuff like that. It's all very drab, government issue, like, very bare bones stuff.
Fine, have a desk with a computer.
No,
like I said, there's
it'll be
other
used for
and then
porn.
you can have
Damn it!
different things on that desk.
All right, yeah, I get what you're saying.
Like there's a window. There could be a window.
I gotcha. Well, what do you think about this idea? Like, I don't know if this is like the first time this has ever happened in like Marvel history, but like just the idea of exploring the low-level ranks of S.H.I.E.L.D. Like, what do you think about that premise, that idea?
Oh yeah, I mean that's cool. I mean it's obviously stolen from Star Trek Lower Decks.
This
but,
came out way before that.
No. There's a TNG episode called Lower Decks that the TV show Lower Decks is based off of.
I mean, it's possible. It's possible.
And just kidding. I'm sure Star Trek didn't do that first. But yeah, I actually do like that. I think it's always cool to see like their point of view when that's done. I gotta be honest, I don't think it's done super great here, just because there's so much dialogue. Like I wasn't expecting a second page of a ton of dialogue, with these guys again. And in the second page, it looks even more drab. This is blue and gray, bluish gray.
Again, they just wanted to try to keep it as simple as possible. Again, to try to make it be like an adult anime, almost like an Adult Swim show or something. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. But yeah, on the next page, the game ends, and one of the other more senior S.H.I.E.L.D. guys, his name is Mitch. He tells Eric that he owes him some money, and then the other agent tells Eric to be careful on his way back to his room, because you never know what might be on the loose on the S.H.I.E.L.D. helicarrier. But yeah, like I guess the important thing here is that Eric is like, oh, I owed you money just once, and you want, get off my back, blah, blah. It's just basically to show that, again, he's a questionable character. So moving on, and now we are in Dr. Pym's lab, and the Ant-Man suit is like suspended sort of from the ceiling. And another S.H.I.E.L.D. guy comes in, and he's just like, oh, I didn't know you were still here. This is all paraphrasing. And yada, yada, yada. They're basically just showing that, traditionally Hank Pym has been known as a guy who's more obsessed with his work, ignoring the Wasp and her sexual needs. And that's basically what happens here, is that he missed all the transports back to the land. And the guy's like, shall I prepare your room for you, Dr. Pym? And he's like, yes. Boy, the Wasp is going to be pissed that I chose my work over her again, blah, blah, blah. Any comments about this page?
No, it was fine. Again, not a huge fan of the colors here. That's about it. But I did appreciate. See, this is what I'm talking about. This guy that comes in to talk to Pym, his outfit's black.
I mean,
like very highlighted stuff. That's what I thought. Like S.H.I.E.L.D. guys, but then again, the other guys aren't really like they work for S.H.I.E.L.D., but they do surveillance. So like they're not like your typical.
But look
agents.
in the third panel where the light is hitting the guy, and it's clearly light blue highlights.
Yeah, but his outfit's like mostly black with the blue highlights. I think those are just like do highlights on his blue outfit. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Either way, like I just felt like they at least gave him some contrast here.
Yeah.
Although ironically, this guy is against a white background half the time.
Right, and I think he's got those like straps on him. I think that helps with the contrast as well.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Okay, so now we are back with it's the next day. Eric is being woken up by his friend Agent McCarthy. They're late for their surveillance tests. We see McCarthy's girlfriend Veronica. Like she asks if they are still on for the night. In some panels she looks like the Baroness from G.I. Joe. She's got that black hair.
I was gonna say the same thing,
but obviously not as attractive as the regular Baroness. Like depending on which panel you see her in, which angle.
Oh, I see, Steve. You're not sexually attracted to this lady, to Veronica, but the Baroness.
But is it supposed to be Veronica from Archie or the Baroness? Which one is it?
That's the other one I was gonna say, but I know we had talked about Reggie last issue. Although this guy looks a little bit like Reggie that she's talking to at the
Yeah.
bottom, second to last.
What is
panel,
it with, black-haired people always get the supporting roles in comic books, it seems like.
I don't know, Steve. You don't see you as I guess you have like a dirty blonde kind of hair. I guess you don't know the pain I go through as a wait.
Oh, wait. Now that
Okay.
you mention it, I mean, Eric has red hair just like Archie. Oh, my God. Mind blown.
Oh. Oh. I thought Eric was supposed to be blonde.
No, he's supposed to be Irish.
All Irish.
No,
people don't have
but
red
you'll
hair.
see in the other panels that he has red hair.
Oh,
So
okay.
anyway,
By the way, Steve, is it important that he's Irish? Like I'm just genuinely asking this. Is that like come up like important to the story? Because I know it was in the description. So it was, no.
nope. I don't know why. But all right, so they go.
Is Kirkman an Irish last name?
It doesn't sound like it, but he looks like he might be.
Oh, I thought you were all about this.
I mean,
this
I don't
Kirkman
know
guy.
everything
I thought-
about his private life and lineage and stuff. But
Oh.
anyway, so
Excuse me, Steve. You said you were a big fan.
yeah.
You said you were excited when you heard he was writing this book. I guess I misunderstood.
I just care about his professional work. I'm not a stan here. I'm not like stalking Robert Kirkman, although I wouldn't mind having his career or even working for him. Skybound, if you're listening, I'm available. Hire me to do something, anything.
And Steve, that won't take 2 pages to say what could be said in 5 panels.
I'm very lazy. I mean, no, it's decompressed. Yeah,
Efficient.
efficient. There you go. So basically, the important part of this page is that they're about to take their tests, and we see that Eric has a girlfriend named Veronica. Moving on, now we're back with Dr. Pym, and he's gathered these.
Talking to the Shield
Yeah,
here.
they've got 4 able-bodied Shield agents. One.
No. I mean, this looks like the Shield from WWE.
Oh yeah, man, it does.
Like that looks like very Roman Reigns-ish at the far right.
I wonder if they were
mean,
even
you
a
got
thing when this book came out.
2012. I mean, I'll Google it, but I think they were already around. You keep reading.
Okay. So
find
basically, he tells these 4 agents, and one of them is Mitch from earlier, that they're going to test out the new Ant-Man suit that he was hired by the Shield agents or the Shield agency to make, but he only needs one. Now we are in the cafeteria. Eric, says to McCarthy, Chris, I believe his first name. He's just like, so I didn't know you had a thing for Veronica. And he's like, oh, we just had a first date. Veronica asked me out. What are you, jealous? And he's like, yeah, I am jealous. Of course I am. And so Chris is like, well, what happened to you and that other girl you were seeing from weapons storage? And he's like, oh, that's ancient history, pal. That's been over for at least 2 weeks. I probably lied to her one too many times. Plus, I sold the mess guys some pictures of her. So a real upstanding human being here.
Yeah, and to get back, this is pre the Shield because the Shield debuted in 2012 and this debuted in 2006.
Oh, there you go. So someone.
So maybe the Shield was ripped off. The look was ripped off of here. Did this one?
There you
panel.
go. And all right, so now it's evening in Eric's room, and Chris McCarthy is playing Xbox at Eric's, and he's like, hey, you're late for your date. Oh, okay, I gotta go. So now they're in, I guess they have a hydroponics area on the Shield helicarrier, which, I mean, this is the first I've heard of it, but why wouldn't they, right? And basically they're having a nice date, and the important information here is that they've actually been going out for a long time. It's just Chris, he didn't want to make Eric angry for some reason. I mean, I guess all of this is just to show that Eric is a sociopath, a jealous sociopath, I guess.
Yeah, so Eric's had a thing for Veronica, and they don't want to hurt his.
Yep.
Blah, blah, blah.
So moving on, unless you have anything to add about this page.
Nope. And then the next page, there's a lot of dialogue once again.
I'm sorry you don't like reading.
I don't mind reading, but I just feel like too many. This could have been like shortened. Like this is a lot of words for what they actually get across.
Yeah, no, it's true. It is a lot of words, and basically, I think they're trying to sort of paint a picture of what life is like on the Shield helicarrier. Chris is talking about how he saw someone who looked, because they're basically talking about what else is going on in the Marvel Universe at the time, which I barely remember. He talks about seeing like Tony Stark with his melted face or something like that. Like, I really have no idea what was going on at this time. But basically the important part here is that McCarthy tells Veronica he's had a soft spot for superheroes, and then they decide to go have sex. That's basically it.
Apparently, that's all they have in common. It sounds like from the conversation. No,
it's true.
I mean, right?
No.
That's kind of like what's alluded
right.
to.
That also is an important.
I don't think these two are going to work out.
So now it is the next day back at the surveillance center, and Eric is trying to get details about his date with Veronica. He refuses to tell Eric anything because, Chris, I guess, is just the gentleman here, or a decent person. Then Agent Mitch shows up, and he pulls Eric and Chris to stand in for some guards because I guess they're shorthanded with guards here at this point in S.H.I.E.L.D.'s long, illustrious career. And so he basically just hands them, they're all like, oh, we're not security guards. But he's like, if you want to get in my good graces, you're going to do what I say. So he basically hands them some guns, and now they're standing in front of a door. Anything to add about any of that?
I kind of hate that he doesn't explain what they're supposed to do. It doesn't make any sense. Like, if it's so important that he wants these guys, because he's like says like, hey, it's important that I get somebody to cover as guards, but he won't explain like what they're supposed to do.
Well, see, I mean, I could see it from that angle, but I could also see it as like, these are low-level rookies. This is a need-to-know basis. I mean, basically, he even says that they just have to look like they're guards so he doesn't look bad. So all I need you to do is stand there and do nothing. Like, that's basically...
Yeah, but he doesn't like tell them what to do if somebody comes in, if somebody comes out, like, and if it's that important, and then I get that it's to like set up the scene in a couple pages, but it's like you could have still gotten there, and I don't know. I just think it makes who's the guy that's asking
Mitch,
to do this? What's his name? Mitch. I think it makes Mitch look dumb. It makes the guy Eric and the other guy look dumb for not asking him sooner, and like later they realize, oh shit, we don't know what we're supposed to do. Like, I think it just makes every character look dumb.
I think that's actually the idea. I mean, Mitch is not without his flaws, like, also. I mean, these are all like low-level peons, and I guess, quote unquote, real people. They're definitely not superheroes, and they care more about sort of their careers and like appearances than
but all the more reason to like give them like some detailed instructions. Like, if, hey, they don't do this normally, they're low-level guys, I need to make sure they do exactly what I ask them.
True. So
that's when I ask people to guard things for me.
I could just see that at your work. But
here's a gun. Stand by this door.
Right.
We're at T-Mobile.
oh, hey, I wasn't gonna say where it was, but anyway. So yeah. Eric and Chris are standing guard by the door. Eric's trying to get more information about the date, and Chris just isn't budging. And he's also asking all these questions. Eric is, and it's making Chris nervous. And they're like, "Oh, we're totally screwed." This is a real Bill and Ted moment, I feel like. And they're worried about getting discharged and losing their jobs. Then the door opens, and Eric freaks out and busts Dr. Pym in the face with the butt of his gun, knocking him out. Whack.
See, I think it would have been better if they had been given specific instructions, but Eric still like freaked out and did this. Like, it would show you how he's a super fuck up.
Right. Like, you could do that. Well, I mean, basically the instructions were stand there and do nothing. But it shows that Eric overthinks it. He's asking questions that he doesn't need to be asking. And I mean, it could work either way. And so basically now we're at a weekend at Bernie's like scenario. Although, of course, Dr. Pym isn't dead. And they're basically just trying to figure out what to do. And then they look over and they see the Ant-Man suit. We turn the page, And now they're like, oh, well, that's pretty cool. And Chris goes over and just touches it, and then it sort of just, I guess, magically decides to bond with him, for lack of a better term.
Well, no. He purposely tried it on because Eric is telling him, "Hey, you should try it on."
Oh, yeah, you're right. Okay, I thought it was
to.
one of those things where, kind of like an anime where you just sort of touch it and then. But yeah, I see.
No. Because he even says like putting this thing on is the best decision I could
Right.
make.
You're right. I was just reading too fast, I guess.
And I hated this because in this situation, why would you do this? You think you're in trouble, like you knock the guy, like it makes no sense.
Well, all right, just to play devil's advocate. Okay, so obviously Eric is interested in the suit, so he's gonna suggest that his friend be the guinea pig for it, basically, and put it on. And I guess the idea is that Chris is very sort of gullible and just sort of goes along with what Eric. I mean, these are grown men, so I would say that there does need to be a little bit of suspension of disbelief, because
Like how bad is Shield at hiring people though? Because this also makes Shield look very incompetent. They would
I knew you were
hire
gonna say that.
such poor decision makers, and these people are people doing surveillance. They're supposed to like decide if something that they see they should report or not. Like, I don't know, man. Like, there's too many holes here. Too many things that don't make sense.
Yeah, I mean, it does take a little bit of suspension of disbelief, but yeah. So Chris is now in the full Ant-Man suit, and now Eric is encouraging him to take it off so he can try it on. I guess he fidgets around, tries to take the helmet off, and then whoop, he accidentally shrinks. And so Eric, of course, panics and runs away.
Hey, I'm sorry to cut you off, Steve, but do you feel like in the panel that like he shrinks? Because it's like in one panel, Ant-Man's like, trying to take the helmet off, and the next panel he's just not there, and Eric is still looking in the exact same direction he was looking in the other panel. So do you think they should have like added some lines, like maybe some like streak lines or something showing the direction where he went? Because
100%, because when I was writing my notes on this, I was just like, oh, he just ran away or disappeared or flew away or something.
Yeah, and if you're, I mean, I doubt anyone would pick this up that isn't already familiar with Ant-Man, but if you were unfamiliar with Ant-Man, you might be like, what?
Right.
And maybe that's what Kirkman was going. Maybe that is what they were going for. They wanted you to find out.
Right.
Later.
Well, I think in the the regular sort of Ant-Man comics or whatever, there is like some sort of like the Pym particles, like they do something.
Yeah, there's like some kind of visual.
Yeah, there's
cue,
no visual
right?
cue here. I don't know. Yeah, I'm with.
And it's a different suit too, so I mean, it doesn't need to do what the other suit did, but I think for the reader, at least in issue 1, it would have been good to have like some indicator of that.
I agree with you.
Because what makes it even more confusing is at the bottom, the very last panel, is somebody running, and it's a full-size person, and it looks just like Ant-Man in the left panel. It just looks like, it's different lighting.
Right. Well, and
so I was like, is Ant-Man running away or did he shrink?
No, the same thing happened to me. I'm with you 100%.
I don't appreciate this Rob Liefeld-esque copy and paste expression. These 4 second to last panels are just copy paste.
Well, I'm interested to hear what you say about this page, which really has nothing to do with the story. We're seeing Wolverine, and he's completely like just eviscerating these Shield agents. I guess it's supposed to show like what happened in the past, because you see Dum Dum Dugan, who's the sub director of Shield, and someone's asking him, "Do we really need all these men?" And he's like, "Oh, if you saw the things Wolverine did while he was under Hydra's control, you'd request more men. Trust me, Mitch." And so, what do you think of this full page spread of Wolverine here?
I mean, I don't know. I have mixed feelings on it. It's definitely not necessary. I guess my biggest gripe with it is that in the upper left-hand corner, it says elsewhere when it's, I guess, supposed to be sometime in the past.
It should be else when.
Yeah, or just like X months ago, or previously in blah blah.
Right. Yeah, that was pretty confusing.
So elsewhere makes it seem like it's happening in real time, just at another location, right?
Yeah, that's
when that is actually the page after it.
Yeah, so now we turn the page and we see that they actually have a Wolverine and he's contained, and they're just transporting him somewhere. But I mean, regardless of the fact that it doesn't make sense, it is a well-rendered page, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it's a cool visual, and I appreciated that they changed the colors slightly.
Man, you've got a...
No. There's some cool stuff here. Like it's very cinematic with the top panel. You know, you could imagine a movie where like that's how it would open up, and then Wolverine would be coming down that ramp or whatever. And the little contraption that Wolverine is in is really cool looking. I don't know if it would really be practical, but it looks cool.
Right.
You know, it's a comic. You want stuff that looks cool. So
100%. So yeah, basically that's just, I don't know. This was just sort of a thing to show that they've got.
Yeah, it was.
It's a nod to something else that's going on in the Marvel universe at the time.
And I assume maybe it comes back in other issues.
Yeah, I don't really remember, but it's almost. It reminds me.
Oh, it must have been great then if it's that memorable.
Hey man, we're talking. How many years has this been now? 15 years almost. It's almost 20. So I don't know, but it reminds me of when we were reading that Spider-Man episode and that whole sort of subplot of the guy, the kid at the park, and his teacher is trying to like save him from his dad. Do you remember that? And it had nothing to do with the story. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's what happens when you read like comics just completely out of context. Like sometimes you have no idea what's going on. So anyway, back to Eric O'Grady here. He's in his room. He's freaking out because he knows he screwed up everything, and so in comes Mitch, and he's all, "What the hell did you do?" And he's like, "Mitch, I don't know. I didn't know how to use the gun, so I bashed the scientist, blah, blah, blah." He tells him everything that he did. And then this is where he says that McCarthy disappeared. So then I had to go back and change my notes. But anyway, so Mitch is like, "Oh, so Chris has the suit." He says, like, he basically explains about the whole Ant-Man developing the suit thing, blah, blah, blah. And he says basically only a few other people know about this, so just stay here. Keep your mouth shut. Before, and they better find Chris before someone else finds him. He also asks Mitch if he was mad at him, and Mitch says, "Let's just say somebody else's head is going to roll for this, and it's not going to be mine." Like, do you think that was a threat towards Eric, or he was talking about somebody else in the SHIELD organization?
I really couldn't tell what he meant. I didn't know. I don't know if he meant like Eric or Chris or
Gotcha. Yeah, same here. So he says, just shut your mouth while he figures out what to do next. And so
Mitch kind of looks like a balding Punisher with his uniform on.
He does. And so now we're with Chris in his Ant-Man suit. He's hanging out in the ventilation system. He says, he's thinking this, "Thanks for running out on me, Eric, you coward. When I find you, I'm going to crawl into your ear and punch your brain." You see him stumbling around in like the Ant-Man suit, like doing stuff. And in the very last panel, he goes, "This is being a superhero? This sucks." And
yeah, what is going on? Is the suit just like doing stuff on his own, and he's just like, "Whoa!"
That's what I thought it was. I mean, I really don't know any other purpose for this page other than to show that he's in the ventilation system, which pays off in a little bit.
But why did he go in the ventilation system? Other than to like have him overhear something later, other than like for that plot reason.
So he doesn't get stepped on by the SHIELD agents?
I wish he would have said something like
you got to read between the lines, man.
I mean, but like I shouldn't have to create headcanon for like why he's moving into the net. You know what I mean?
I've never heard that expression before. That's
Have you never heard headcanon? Yeah, that's well, I see it in Star Trek forums all the time when people are trying to decipher most of the new Star Trek shows and why they did something. Mm-hmm. And that's always my response is like, well, we shouldn't have to figure out why they did something that's important to the plot.
It's true. It's true. So Veronica catches up to Eric. It's been like a few days, and they still haven't heard.
It's the next evening. Like so much time has gone by,
Right.
and this guy is just
I mean,
in the
like,
vents. I mean, I feel like you don't even need to you didn't even need to show that he was going to be in the vents, because if you're saying like it's been a whole other day, then you could be like, okay, he's been moving around and exploring. So I don't even think you needed to show that he went into the
right.
vents.
Another sort of plot hole you could point out here if you wanted to is like,
I
this
want
is
to.
a, government area. If you don't show up for your job for one day, people are going to start calling. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I guess you could say that maybe Mitch is their like supervisor for lack of a better term. So maybe he's covering for them. But yeah, that's just something to think about.
Well, and they already know that they think like, a couple pages ago, what's his face Mitch mentions that Shield thinks a rogue agent stole the suit, so they already know the suit is missing.
They're blaming those guys who were originally picked to be to.
But they can probably just go find those guys because they don't have the suit, and they're like just on the base.
Yeah, a lot of these problems could be solved really quickly. But we're going with it because it's fun, right? So Veronica catches up to Eric, and basically she's like, I haven't heard from Chris. Where is he? Any idea? And of course he says, nope, sorry, no clue. And after some prodding, Eric admits that Chris is lies and says that he's on a top secret mission, and that's all he can say, and that he didn't make the cut. And so Veronica says, imagine that. And so we turn the page, and this is where we see Ant-Man, a.k.a. Chris, looking through the vents at Veronica talking to Eric. And Eric basically throws a little monkey wrench in Chris's romantic endeavors by saying that he's been seeing some other... actually, it's the girl that he broke up with, actually, now that I notice it.
Yeah, it's the girl that Eric broke up with 2 weeks ago, supposedly. Kirsten,
yeah, so this sociopath is taking down two birds with one lie, basically.
I mean, but Veronica could just ask Kirsten about this, so I don't...
Right, but
this is more to show like the kind of person Eric is.
And Chris sees it, and he calls him a duplicitous asterisk sign, blah, blah, blah. You know, how they cover up swear words in Marvel Comics. And so what's up?
It's the next evening, and I guess Chris still hasn't figured out how to get back to normal size. Hasn't tried to communicate with anyone about this, do anything. Right. Like he could like write something somewhere. I'm sure they'd have like a whiteboard somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, he could do that.
He could go type on a keyboard.
Surely he could go find someone. Like, again, I don't know exactly 100% how.
Where's Hank Pym?
Yeah, I mean, he could try to find him or anyone. Just be like, hey, agent, nobody. I'm down here. I need your help. And then
he could just go back to the lab and just like wait on the table for Hank Pym to wake up, and Hank Pym would see him. And does Shield have no way to locate the suit?
That's a good point too. That's a very good point. I mean, did Eric hit Hank Pym so hard that he's in a coma right now?
I guess so.
All right, so we turn the page, and now we're in the present day, and the woman that Ant-Man / Eric saved at the very beginning of the issue is waiting in a nice restaurant, and up comes Eric, and he says, oh, I'm Ant-Man. Can you keep a secret? And then that is the end of the issue. Anything to add on the bookend here?
I actually like the end a lot. I like the whole thing, like, oh, okay, because how does eventually Eric get the suit, or is he just lying again? But then how would he know like about Chris saving him if Chris is the one with the suit? So I actually do like the ending a lot, and how it kind of leaves like it's a very sorry folks, we're out of time Monday Nitro ending where
the tape machines are running.
The tape machines are running. And then next week, Monday Nitro starts off with like a match of El Dandy versus Van Hammer, and instead of picking up,
or even worse, it starts off with 20 minutes of talking, and then they finally have the El Dandy match.
Yeah, Eric Bischoff and Hulk Hogan come out and talk about how great they are. I thought the ending was really good. Actually, I really liked the way it ended.
I agree. I think. Robert Kirkman has an interesting way of telling, superhero stories. For sure. I mean, obviously, he has the sort of success to prove it. But, for a first issue, for it to end on this note, it definitely makes you want to read more, for sure.
Yeah, I will say it left. Well, I don't know if I'd want to read more. It makes me want to go look up on Wikipedia how he gets
or
sued.
listen to some douchebag YouTuber spoil everything for you.
Yeah. Anything that doesn't involve me reading the next issue.
Wow. I'm going to tell Robert Kirkman when we become pals someday in the future. Are you ready to render your verdict?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay.
Rated. Next is the question.
All right. So Agent Velasquez of the surveillance sector of of S.H.I.E.L.D. Do you think that the irredeemable Ant-Man should be remembered for all of human history or tossed in the black hole of obscurity, never to be heard from again?
I hate to make a decision based on just one issue when it's like this, because it feels like Act 1, so it is a little hard. But there were so many things I disliked about this. I was shocked at how many things I disliked about this. The only thing I liked was how it ends. I liked some of the ideas, like setting up this guy as being a jerk. I think that's great. Have your superhero be kind of an asshole. But there's so many plot holes. There's so many things that don't make sense. And it's weird to me that Kirkman spent so much time on so much dialogue that could have been made shorter and then doesn't explain other things that seem way more important to the plot. And then I just got mad at the way he used, the amount of words he used. I'm gonna say no. This is a no for me. This is an obliterate.
Wow. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, obviously, as you know, I like it. I mean, reading it again, even with its flaws, I really enjoy it. I love a good premise. I could see if you're not a seasoned Marvel reader and you just want to read regular Ant-Man, this is not the book for you. If you're a long-time Marvel reader and you want to see a sort of a skewed take on Ant-Man, and also while at the same time sort of looking at the lower levels of S.H.I.E.L.D., which I believe has never really been tackled before. This would really interest the longtime Marvel reader, because it's just something you don't hear about or even or get to read about within the halls of the Marvel universe. So I could see how a casual fan this would not sit well for them, but I still love it. So man, it's been a long
and you've read the whole run.
Yes.
Also, so you have I don't know, as far as I know, I might love the rest of the issues. So this is just my opinion on this one issue, and usually you have very good opinions when it comes to comic, or at least we tend to agree more than disagree. So if you say the series is good, then listener, take Steve's advice.
You're so polite. It's all right if you don't like it. It's okay. But
I'm the redeemable Yahel.
Yeah. So in that case, we've got ourselves a good old-fashioned stalemate. Here we go.
This is it. Those pathetic podcasters known as Obscurity Now have once again rendered a verdict of no contest. That's right, a stalemate. They've wasted everyone's time. They are just as lazy as Congress and twice as corrupt. Boo, I say, tar and feather 'em. Get out the guillotine. Boo to stalemate, and boo to Obscurity Now.
All right.
And also don't tell me that Chris is the responsible one, the smart one out of Eric and Chris, and then later have him be oh, okay, we just knocked out this guy. Let me try on the Ant-Man suit.
I wouldn't say that it was ever implied that he was smarter.
Oh, Veronica implies that he's the responsible one. And Eric is the screw-up.
I think Veronica would think that, of course, because that's the man that she's dating. Chris is a better person, but I would say
Chris is the one that gets Eric up, because Chris is up on time.
All right, a little bit.
He's the one that's ready.
But they're both still rookies, and he's still pretty gullible and allows himself to be manipulated by Eric. Like otherwise,
right? But and that felt completely out of character to me because okay, so we've got Veronica's with him because he's like more responsible than Eric, or at least that's one of the reasons. It's at least one of the reasons that she wouldn't date Eric. So that makes you got to think, okay, Chris is going to be responsible in her eyes. Earlier, when they're playing poker, Mitch says, hey, Chris, I know you're good for it tomorrow. Again, implying that Chris is the responsible one that can be counted on. Chris is the one that's up on time, up early enough to go wake up Eric and still have him be on time for their shift. And so don't spend all this time telling me that he's like the good one and then have him do something so stupid. Like it felt completely out of character.
Right. I mean, okay. So does it not make sense for him to be responsible but also gullible, allow himself to be manipulated by Eric?
I just don't think he would have done that after they had just encountered this issue of knocking out Hank Pym. Now I think what they should have done is, like, if they really wanted to do it this way, what I would have done, and listen to me, I've written 0 comic books, is I would have Hank Pym walks out the room. They don't know what to do. Like, maybe Eric and Chris kind of freak out, but they don't do anything because they were told, do nothing. And after Hank Pym, like, walks, they're like, oh, God, should we have stopped him? Blah, blah, blah. I don't know. He didn't see what to do. Maybe we should see what's in there. They go into the lab. They see the suit. And that's when, Chris can kind of be goaded into trying it on. So he tries it on. Hank Pym walks in. And then Eric freaks out, hits him with the gun. And now you can still, like, do all the beats you needed to without, like, making Chris do something way out of character.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm trying to imagine like what went on. Like maybe they didn't have
the editor.
I was gonna say that maybe they didn't have a strong editor at the time, or they were just like.
Oh, according to Robert Kirkman in his little letter at the end, they've got the best editor ever.
They always say that.
Yeah, they do. What are you gonna do? Be like, oh, my editor's shit.
Yeah, right. I guess we'll just have to agree.
I'll send Robert some notes. Can you imagine if I just sent him an email? Notes on Irredeemable Iron Man.
Or Ant-Man.
Ant-Man number 1. First, change the title. Make this an Iron Man book, number 1.
Well, this was a great discussion, regardless. If there isn't anything else to add, I guess that's our show for the day, huh?
Yeah. I might read issue number 2 because I am curious.
Well, I think, one of the big things that Robert was like pushing because when he was being interviewed about this series is like, Eric, the Irredeemable Ant-Man is like, he's a real sleazebag. Like one of the things that he does is use the suit to shrink down so he can watch, at the time, Miss Marvel, now she's known as Captain Marvel, shower. and that scene, it does happen. I mean, of course, like, things are covered and stuff, but yeah, he's a real slime ball. And it might be worth it I'm almost interested to read it again to see if it holds up for me in 23?
Yeah, yes.
But
well, either way, it was a made for a good discussion. And,
for sure.
That's I'm sure what Kirkman wrote
for dudes to discuss on YouTube /podcast about 100%.
Yeah, I'm sure that's his reason.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us, everyone. Well, if you enjoy comics as we do, you might want to check out the comic book I wrote, Escape to Earth. I'll run the promo once we end here, and there'll be a link in the description where you can order issue number 1. But please join us next Sunday as we continue to unearth even more obscure media only on Obscurity Now. See you next week. I'm having a weird day. The name's Adam. Where I'm from, I'm known as the Zero Thief. Depending on who you ask, some might say I'm the best thief. But believe it or not, even the best screws up every once in a while, and that's what I did, and I had to make a fast getaway. I ended up crash landing on this bizarre planet. Turns out, I didn't get away fast enough. These winged freaks followed me here.
It's just us here, Zero Thief, on this empty backwoods planet. So start talking, either to me or my blade.
Okay, I do have something to tell you. It's about the planet. It's not that empty. Come on, man, I thought you were gonna duck. Cut me loose. Cut me loose. Behind you. Whoa! Thought I was done for. It was gonna be a light snack for a snarling creature, but then she showed up, riding on the back of one of those monsters like it was nothing. And with a wave of her hand, the other razor-toothed beast just stomped away. I'd never seen anyone like her before in my life. I thought I'd say something clever. Thanks, have you seen my ship? She gave me a look that said more than words ever could, because I think she was trying to read my mind or something. And from there, things just got even weirder. Escape to Earth. Issue 2, crowdfunding now. You've been enjoying Obscurity Now, a podcast that's recorded live to tape and streamed to Twitch and YouTube. Subscribe so you never miss an episode or hilarious quip. Take us with you by following the download links provided in the show notes to wherever you get podcasts. And take notice of our various social media links. If that's what you're into, I'm not here to judge. And make sure you join us live next week at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific as we continue to discuss more obscure media only on Obscurity Now.